the concentration of power in the party. The policy of cadre deployment has without doubt demoralized the civil service, because it means those who are higher up in the ranks of a political party are the ones that eventually make their way up to the top. We are of the complete view that if we are going to restore the credibility of the state, that its independence is paramount, and that those who are appointed to the position cannot be in any way use connections to party political work. If we continue along this path, it will severely undermine the professionalism of the civil service that has been allowed for such a long time and has created a network of corrupt cadres to entrench themselves in every department of the state, and furthermore in state-owned enterprises. We have seen, fellow South Africans, the pernicious effect of this cadre deployment at SARS, at ESCOM, at SAA, at DENEL, in the SAPS, and ultimately even in the NPA. If the public faith of the NPA is to be rebuilt at all, we believe the president must appoint someone who is seen totally to be above politics. It's not enough that it's not enough to know that the person will act independently. They must also be seen to be independent. And it is this factor which has led to the decision that Advocate Breytenbach has made. It's an opportunity for the president to in fact demonstrate to the people of South Africa that the criminal justice system will no longer be abused for political ends, and that every person is equal before the law, no matter what power they wield, no matter what position they hold in society or in politics. It's an opportunity to reassert South Africa's leadership role in the continent, where the abuse of legal processes to protect the powerful is all too common. We call on the president to use this opportunity to admit that in fact the ANC's policy of cadre deployment has been disastrous for South Africa. In fact, it is, and many would describe, the original intention of state capture, and has led directly to state capture, and therefore ultimately cadre deployment must be stopped. He must appoint a candidate who is fiercely independent, loyal to the rule of law and to the Constitution, and has a proven track record of acting accordingly. When the DA, we've been consistent over the number of years. We want to ensure that ultimately there's rationality in the decision that is taken for who should be the National Director of Public Prosecutions, and it must be a fit and a proper person and must act within the law. We fought the appointment of Advocate Menzim Simelane to the position of NDPP in 2011 and won, and this was a precedent-setting case in which we were determined that the president, when appointing the NDPP, must choose the person who is fit and proper person with due regard to his or her experience, conscientious and integrity. The case further determined that these qualities are jurisdictional facts that must be objectively assessed, therefore making it open to judicial review. We've also proposed that in the past that the appointment procedure for the National Director of Public Prosecutions be reformed to limit the power of the President to appoint whomever he or she likes, and to involve Parliament more directly in the process. This will ensure that the people who are elected by the people have oversight over this process. And so we've specifically, in this instance, proposed a constitutional amendment that would check the President's powers to appoint the NDPP of his choice by requiring that he decides on the appointment only upon the recommendation of Parliament itself. The model will be similar to that of the appointments of the Chapter 9 institutions, and encourages selections on objective grounds during a transparent multi-party process. The private member's bill to this effect has been proposed by DA MP Dean Smuts in 2013, was voted down by the ANC in a motion of desirability. The DA has stated before that we intend to reintroduce this private member's bill on this particular issue. It's not to say you're casting any aspersion on any president. It's to be clear that the limitation of the powers of the president are very key in a constitutional democracy. And I welcome the new process that has been undertaken to appoint the new Director of Public Prosecution. And I think ultimately that it's now open to the media will be absolutely crucial, that all the candidates can in fact be able to respond, to be able to demonstrate to the people of South Africa their competence, and that we will ultimately appoint somebody who will show all citizens that they are a fit and a proper individual to be able to deal with such a task. And so today, I think, is a great opportunity to really set right the legal process in our country and ensure that those who are corrupt are held to account. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take questions. Okay. Yes, Karen.
Can we hear from Glynnis, please, on her reasons
Sure.
for withdrawing from the process?
Sure. My reasons are, as already stated by Lucy, I've propagated the view in the past, and it's certainly the DA's position, that the National Director should be someone who is fiercely independent and will prosecute without fear, favour or prejudice, who will right the wrongs in the NPA and do away with the toxic politicisation that has taken place there. While I have no doubt that I can do that, and that's the reason I accepted the nomination, having given the matter a lot of thought, I can't escape the perception that I'm a politician. And I'll bring that perception to that role if I would be appointed. I don't believe that's in the best interest of the National Prosecuting Authority. This isn't about individuals, it's about fixing a really vital state institution. And having seen that there are other really competent people on the list, made it much easier to withdraw, because if one of them is appointed, they can certainly do that job.
Are you disappointed in that you have to give up a job that maybe was something you'd always wanted?
I'm not particularly disappointed. It's a dream job. There's no question about that. I'm very happy with the job I have. I enjoy the job that I have. I try and do it well. So no, I'm not disappointed. No.
And this way from Sunny Times, did you apply or were you nominated for the position?
I was nominated.
Can you say about me?
The Pretoria Bar.
Oh, okay. And okay, maybe Lucy, you can also answer the question about the process that the president has decided to follow, having this panel and so on. I know you alluded to it earlier. But, I mean, it goes back to what you guys want in Parliament should be similar to the public protector process. And we know the outcomes of that process in Parliament. You were never happy with the outcome. You didn't support the outcome. Why do you think it should be any different if it's the NDPP? Because you still don't have the majority. The majority could vote for whoever else that you don't like.
One, I think the Constitution prescribes up front the appointment of Chapter 9 institutions, which means that no future president would then be able to deviate. Right at this point in time, President Ramaphosa has appointed a panel. Now, who is on that panel? When you think about people like Jeff Radebe, etc., and you put them in that panel, who's in future to suggest that another president could appoint their closest ministers to achieve a very similar outcome? So to be seen as though it's transparent, yet ultimately it's another way of sending the people that who are loyal to you to appoint a particular person. That's the first thing. The second is, in the interview panel, right? The advantage of Parliament is that whilst I don't support the appointment of, we never supported the appointment of the current public protector, we were able to put the questions and we were able to, in fact, interrogate it properly. And then, furthermore, be able to communicate to the people of South Africa why our objections were on the table, so that when, in fact, you come here, this is the outcome. So, fortunately, the media has applied to have the thing be made public. It would naturally be the case if it was in Parliament. And also, the checks and balances in the long run mean that the person is accountable to Parliament. Busisiwe must come through and must account for her performance. And so I just think that the parliamentary process is far more transparent, much more accountable, and across party lines, and is prescribed in law. Whereas at this point in time, another president in future could invent another process to achieve a different outcome.
Are you disappointed that Glynnis was actually considered, considering that she is a politician? She's an active politician who's representing the party in parliament.
Yeah.
And yet this process did consider her.
Look, I'm not disappointed. I think it's a great feather in a cap. I think Glynnis is a...
Because she's Glynnis.
Sorry?
Because she's Glynnis and she's the DANP.
No, she comes from the role. She comes from the NPA. It's not because she's Glynnis.
No, I get that. But I mean, if it was an ANC MP...
If they came from the... Who came from the NPA, understood the thing, anyone is open to nominating them. But once they take a political role, this is an opportunity for us to help the South African public understand. Because I think we've had such a culture and a practice in our country where it's always been natural that we deploy cadres, almost as though that's a standard way of operating, that South Africans were well within their rights to make the nomination. So that's not the disappointment. The opportunity is to say to people, actually, whilst I believe that Glynnis would have been an exceptional National Director of Public Prosecution, the fact that she has taken a role in politics is an opportunity for us to remind South Africans that we actually want people who are not only apolitical, but are also seen to be apolitical. The future of this country, and this must be one where we build a capable state born out of individuals who will serve whatever administration is in place. And I know I say it tongue-in-cheek, but I really do maintain that Glynnis would make an exceptional Minister of Justice in a political role where she can have oversight on these particular key processes. And I think that's important for the project of building South Africa. We must make sure that the individuals who are appointed are appointed in that manner. Even if it was an ANC MP, it doesn't matter what political party they're from. It matters that they are apolitical. Let me take one last question and then we shall be done. Scribble. Yes.
Okay, I do have a question.
Yeah.
You said there were capable candidates. Is there anyone that you specifically rooting for that you think is more qualified than others?
I think there are three that are equally well qualified.
Okay.
I think Shamila Batoy could do a very good job. She's a lot of experience. She's been a prosecutor for many years. She's got some experience now of the International Criminal Court. I think she could do a great job. She's a very good administrator. I think Rodney de Kock has run a very good ship in the Western Cape. And with proper support, I think he could do the job. And then there's the outsider, Sax Makoma, who I've known since he was a young man. Also a very good prosecutor. He left to go to Transnet for a while. Solid human being. I think he could do the job.
The only last thing I'd like to ask is, we know President Ramaphosa is out the country. We don't know where Deputy President Mabuza is. So I guess the question holds, who is the President of the Republic as we sit here today? And maybe if the presidents can announce who the acting president is, that would be helpful in the event that we need to make some serious decisions on the go.
Did they not ask you?
No, that time is coming. I don't need to be asked by the ANC in this regard.
Attention on another matter. Do you think, in fact, it's a lot of speculation about whether Malusi Gigaba is going to resign as an MP? Do you believe he should resign as an MP, or is it enough for you that he's stepped down as a minister?
Malusi Gigaba has committed perjury. He must face criminal prosecution, and therefore his long-term trajectory should not be as a member of parliament. It should be to face criminal prosecution. And if that conviction is secured, he must end up in jail like any other citizen. I don't believe that he should be a member of parliament, because ultimately we represent the people who elect us. And whether you're a minister or not, your duty as a member of parliament is to always swear an allegiance to the Constitution. So there isn't a differentiation between whether you're a minister or an MP. The differentiation here is to say you've sworn oath to the Constitution. Malusi Gigaba has been found in violation of the Constitution, and ultimately I'm of the view that he shouldn't be an MP in this regard, because if the bar is such that you can fail as a minister and retain your job as an MP, well, our future as a country will end up in a space where we've got too many people who avoid accountability by stepping down in their executive role and just becoming ordinary MP. I think we've got to set a bar much higher than that.
So President Cyril Ramaphosa hasn't avoided your court challenge then?
No, and the furthermore action is that Batabile Dlamini must also be removed. I mean, I'd wish for more MPs. There are many cabinet ministers that I'd want to go, simply not because of any other thing, because I think they're just not doing their jobs in water and sanitation, and there are many others. But in this particular instance, there are court findings against these respective individuals, and Batabile has been found against in a court of law. In fact, the judgment that came about her said the following words, that she placed herself above the roles and the duties of her portfolio, which is to deliver welfare to our people. Someone like that surely cannot be fit to be a cabinet member, let alone an MP. So, to the point that I think this today is about, when you exercise cadre deployment to a point where the cadre is much more important than the people they are elected to serve, then without doubt you recognize why a system of corruption is operating within the ANC, and ultimately means that services cannot be delivered to our people. I don't care about the individuals. They may just as well be any other names. But when a court finds against you, it says you've broken the law, you are not doing your job, I think it would be incumbent not even for the president to have waited for his resignation letter, but effectively to have fired him.